am in favor.
Can I ask you a
this.
yes or no?
Yes or no?
Ready? Can we play that game again?
Yes. Did I
Should
get it right?
Americans be required to have ID to vote? Chris, yes or no?
No. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Candace Owens made an absolute fool out of Chris Cuomo on the PBD podcast. Patrick Bet-David hosted a panel where Candace Owens just absolutely owned Chris Cuomo, but that wasn't hard when you hear some of the dumb arguments that Chris Cuomo was making. Everyone was dumbfounded by his arguments. And even at one point, everyone wonders, is Cuomo trolling us? Let's see how this goes down, shall we?
Is it that, I forget how it was explained earlier, but I don't know that it's that the government, whatever that means, if you want to ascribe it all to one groupthink, doesn't trust blacks or think minorities are capable of or whatever. But the argument is that culturally, socioeconomically, as you go down in terms of the poverty level, as poverty becomes more important, there's less connection with government. There's less percentage of people who want to interface with government and who have identification. So the argument is, if you say you need an ID to vote, you will have an unfair bias against those strata of society that don't tend to get IDs and don't want to deal with government.
Okay, but I just have to...
I'm just saying that is the argument.
No, it's not an argument to lie, okay? Because
but
it's not about,
you
don't get an ID because you want to engage with government. You get an ID because you want to drive. You get an ID because you're 19
right.
and you're 21 and you want to have your first drink. You get an ID because you quite literally need an ID to do so many things in
That's
society.
true.
So forget, you wouldn't say that people that are in a lower socioeconomic class are never drinking, are never driving, are never doing all of the other things that are required, never seeing a movie, like, that's above PG-16. You need an ID to do so much in life. So you're focusing, this is the lie. You're saying, well, they don't tend to vote. That might be true. That might definitely be true.
No, they don't tend to have IDs. That's not why they're getting an ID. That's not why they're getting an ID. So I understand.
They're just lying.
I understand. I don't think it's a lie. It could be wrong. It could be a false assumption.
If it's wrong, then it's a lie. If you keep saying it, if it's wrong and you keep saying it, it becomes a lie, right?
No, that's only
There's no black people that are not getting their IDs. I came from a low socioeconomic background. I got my driver's license when I was 16 years old because I wanted to drive and pick up my boyfriend.
I get it. And
those are the reasons people get IDs. That's simple. I love you too.
I get it. What I'm saying is...
Yeah, this whole notion that the Democrats created that, like, oh, blacks don't have ID, so therefore requiring ID to vote's racist. It's all BS. It's just because they don't want voter ID because they want illegals to be able to vote. Because illegals, they tend to left toward the Democrats because the Democrats are the ones always defending them, always offering all these programs, offering all these benefits to come over here. So, yeah, they want illegals to vote, and that's why it's always the Democrats pushing this lie that, it's actually racist to ask for voter ID. But Candace Owens said it perfectly. You need an ID to do a lot of things. So how come there are black people who are going to bars, who are going to see, rated R movies, getting their driver's license? How come they're able to do all that and get their ID for those things, but they're not able to do it for voting?
Two things can be true at once. The argument is exactly what I'm saying it is, okay? The reason the big states don't have it is because of this argument, that they say that there is a disproportionate impact on people from lower socioeconomic rungs that do not get it. One, we do know for a fact that poor people that live in more populated areas drive at a much lower rate than other people, so maybe they don't have the license. That's the argument. I'm not saying you have to value the argument. The other argument is we need IDs for everything that we do. Why would we do this? The argument now to your question, which is why don't we do it online? Okay, so I ran with this idea like 7 years ago. When we came out of the hanging Chad thing that allowed me to spend a great amount of my time in your state, in Jacksonville specifically, about the hanging Chads, the 2000 election and all, I was like, wow, this is such a stupid system. Why don't we just do this the way everything in my life is on here? Pay my mortgage. My money doesn't exist, right? I mean, I don't have, I'm not my grandparents. I don't have 50 Savarin cans, which was an instant coffee, in my basement that has my savings in it. I don't put money under my mattress. I don't even know where it is. And I'm okay with that, but we can't vote. And I got crushed by all of these security and intelligence people saying, oh, the fraud that would happen, the chance of fraud. And I said, but we have like the easiest system to beat in the world. The stat they hit me with was the voter ID states do not have better rates, or let's say lower rates of voter fraud than the states without ID. So it doesn't really make a difference.
That is the fraud. that is
but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. I ran with this. I believe in this. I believe that voting should be as easy and immediate as possible. I think that voting should not be one day. I think that voting, if it is going to be on that one day should be a vacation day for everybody in America so that they can go out and vote. I believe in early voting. I believe in online voting. I believe that we should have as many people voting as possible so we make it as easy as possible. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and you're not going to like it, but that's not my problem. It is not even this issue. It's not both sides of the aisle. The right, until voter ID, has consistently been against anything that would increase who votes.
Okay,
and I think there are reasons for that. But I am in favor of this.
Can I ask you a yes or no?
Yes or no?
Ready? Can we play that game again?
Yes. Did I
Should
get it right?
Americans be required to have ID to vote? Chris, yes or no?
No. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Until I see fraud rates that go along with the distinction, I don't believe that you make a simple pitch. Then my answer is no. And my answer is no because I don't believe that I don't believe you want the government having even more control over who can vote and who can't.
Okay, so
Chris Cuomo is sounding like an absolute dummy here. Even the audience is torching him and like booing him because his argument doesn't make any sense. He just wants everyone to go willy-nilly go vote, whether it's secure or not. What's the use of having it easier for everyone to vote if it's not going to be more secure? Like, what's the point of that? Like, he says, well, why can't we just have it? We do everything else on the phone. Yeah, and our phone isn't the most secure either. Companies are getting hacked all the time. My freaking information's out there right now. My credit card information, my passwords, they're all like freaking on the black market right now, being sold as we speak. You don't think that's going to happen if we have voter ID, that someone could just hack it and just choose whoever they want to win? Bottom line is, if you want easier access for people to vote, you need to heighten the security. Because, you know, he's going on about how important voting is. Everyone should have access for it. We should have a holiday. Okay, well, if it's so important, we need to heighten the security. So unless you come up with a plan to heighten the security and make it more secure, then, yeah, we could start talking about, you know, easier access. But until then, you're sounding like an idiot. But what do you guys think? Comment section. Sound off in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy content like this. Let's get back to it.
That's fine. I'm glad you're being honest. I just want to say, if you are a black or Hispanic American, please find me the black or Hispanic American who does not work, because you need an ID to get a WT form, get set up, they ask you for your ID, who does not vote, who does not drink, who does not drive or drive somebody else's car. This person does not exist. It does not travel. You can't get on a plane without it. This person does not exist, okay? So it is the lie that they tell so that they can rig our elections by having a bunch of people who are not Americans coming in and voting. And
Where's the proof that happens?
Everybody knows that, okay?
How can you know what we've never been shown? Where is the fraud? Where are the fake votes?
And the idea that any person will get up and say to you that they do not believe that you should have an ID to vote. I'm just gonna I'm not even going to characterize what you just said.
But you backed it up by saying that we know that all these people vote who aren't supposed to. Where's the proof of that?
We understand the voting rolls. There's dead people on the voting rolls, and this has been proven
every time they measure this with billions and billions of vote checks. And anybody here or Magic Rob, go up and find different for me on the internet. They look and they see that the amount of fraud in elections is de minimis, which is beyond a level of action. We just went through this.
Okay, let me ask a question a different way.
Chris,
let me ask.
I hope you forever have a platform.
Hang on. Let me ask a question a different way. Let me ask a question a different way. Chris, here's a question. You and I run a nightclub.
Yes.
Okay, it's 21 and over.
Need an ID.
Why?
Because otherwise you can't tell whether they're over 21. And they're worried about the liability.
What about you can't tell whether they're American?
Show me proof.
Listen,
show me proof.
I get the arguments. I get what the arguments are.
This is no, Chris.
Do you get the arguments? Like, what are you doing here, Chris? Chris Cuomo, what are you doing here? Because, like I said earlier, you're sounding like a big idiot. Like the crowd's torching him. Candace Owens is like biting her tongue, trying not to just lash into him. Even PBD is just calmly torching him. Is Chris Cuomo legitimately this stupid, guys? Like, what is going on here? Is he still like shilling for the Democrats here, or is he just an idiot? What's going on with this guy? Comment section.
This to me is more.
Yes.
No, it's common sense. It's for me to okay.
So why do you think that they don't do it again? Because you agree with Candace that the reason they don't require ID is because they want a lot of illegal votes and to manipulate the system.
A lot of
all the watchdogs from the right that follow this issue have just never been able to prove it?
Well, you're racist if you say something.
Of everything Candace said about IDs, was for me to be able to get a driver's license, for me to be able to get a drink, for me to be able to do this, for me to be able to do that.
I agree.
For me, it's a different reason on why you need a driver. It's for me to know who the hell you are. It's very different.
I totally get it.
I'm not interested in what, all that stuff that I get to do selfishly because I need the ID to do that. No. When you came in here right now, we have friends we respect a lot and we respect our guests. Did you guys all come through a metal detective, yes or no? Do you know how many cops and sheriff are around here right now? You know how much we spend on security right now to make sure they're safe and nobody can come in here where you're safe as well? Now, we're doing our part. We invest the resources there. Sheriff is very good with us. Cops are very good with us. But did you guys come in here? Did somebody walk you through, find out, verify, checking who you are, what you're doing? We have to do that. We got to go through that process.
I totally get it.
And by the way, this is not 1/1,000,000th of as important as an election, okay?
I agree.
This is just a podcast and a conversation. So for us to sit there and say, the idea isn't that important, brother, you're a very, very, people from your community and others will hear what you have to say and they may go with that as well. In a country without IDs and without being checked, you're not a country. You're not even a country club. You're not even a village. I don't even know what to call you, but you're definitely not a country.
Again. We're a constitutional republic. That's right. Less than 5% of Americans get that question.
Republic. He said banana
Chris,
republic.
It's also, it's not like they're hiding. When Biden comes in, opens the border with Mayorkas the rat doing his dirty work. How many in the past 3 years we've had more illegals come into the country than children being born? Okay.
December of last year was more coming in than children being born.
And this is where it's that window of, I understand that the proof is when they're coming in, they're wearing Biden shirts and being told, we're voting for him because they're telling us to. Then Biden they admitted.
Then they'll be easy to catch.
Yeah, well, hold on though. Well, those four. But think about this. And then Biden, they admitted last week, he flew in secretly 320,000 illegals across the country, which to me, that's treason.
But it's brilliant, but it's brilliant from the perspective of spread the votes, not just in states you already have control over. You got to spread them other states that you don't have control over.
And then think about this, though. And Candace, you nailed it. And then if you say anything against them, you're racist. Mind you, and Nancy Pelosi was crying. She was also pissed off on MSNBC, or it might have been, MSNBC. And at the end, she goes, you know what really pissed me off about Biden?
Can you play that clip?
Yeah, Rob, if you can.
Go ahead and say it until he finds it.
Magic Rob. I like that. She was
phenomenal name, by the way.
She cried because Biden touched her heart, but then she was furious because he called them illegals. She said these are migrants and they're newcomers. It's obvious they're going to be voting.
Let's watch
yeah, Rob,
this. Go ahead, Rob. Magic Rob.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but it's not a big thing, okay? What's the big thing about it?
It's a big thing to Vinny.
I actually wasn't even going to ask about that. I was just going to ask more about the moment. But you do think that he should have said undocumented? That wasn't going to be my question.
Well, we usually say undocumented. He said...
And let's just be honest. Because they are, and we all know this, they love power so much. They don't want to lose it. They're willing, look at all the fentanyl, 120,000 dead Americans each year, or more than any war that we've combined all these wars. Children sex trafficking, all these votes. It's such an open, it's a supply chain. And Chris, you nailed it. Is it cheating? Or is it that these are the rules? They don't have no voter ID in all these places. The left is just playing the better game. That's what we talked about?
I definitely think there's a game. I definitely think that language and blaming people for being bad if they don't agree is part of the game and really, really effective. It gets used against me on a regular basis. I literally have a monitor of every day whether or not I'm seen as anti-Semitic because I had somebody on who's worried about Gaza, or whether I am pro-Hamas and a terrorist because I'm talking about, what's happening. I get it. This all works very, very well, okay? Pelosi can make whatever point she wants about vocabulary. I don't have any problem not seeing everyone who enters the country illegally the same way. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the fact that it's not just some brown menace that everybody's being told to be afraid of. You got Russians, you got Chinese, you got a lot of people coming from different countries now in illegally.
They're not sending their best.
This is the main. This is the main. Well, or maybe they are. It took 19 people to bring us to our knees for months in 2001. It doesn't take a lot of people who are motivated to madness to make a difference. But I'll tell you something. The truth is enough. Okay? There is no hidden program. The CBP app was wide open, and you were told about it, and you were told this was going to happen, all right? And it was allowed to go through. They don't fly people in. They allow them to fly themselves in. Now, is that a difference? Yeah, because it's a little bit of a rhetorical difference. It's not Biden paying for the people to come in, but you are going to pay for the hundreds of thousands of people who are in here now that weren't really verified because the system is broken. This is the most important domestic issue of this election. Immigration encompasses the economy, national security, and the #1 killer in our country, which is the most ignored problem.
Can I ask what you were saying when in 2016 when Trump people were saying, build that wall, build that wall. Were you saying it was the most important issue? Or
absolutely, and I was saying that the wall, we are not a wall away from being safe. Why? Because if you go down to the border, or you just pick up your phone, because all of us have access to the smartphone, and talk to people who do the job at the border, the first thing they ask you for is not physical barriers. Why? Because there's a lot of their problem that doesn't have to do with physical barriers. It has to do with rules. And the number one thing they've been asking me for 18 years to change are the asylum laws, because there is no right to economic asylum. And that the reason less than 10% have successful asylum claims is because they are economic based, and they've been begging for rule changes, and they've been begging for resources to adjudicate. That's what they ask for most, and that's what was in this Senate bill. Was it imperfect? Yes. Should we be able to do better? Yes. Should we be able to do comprehensive? No way. Stop asking for comprehensive border reform. It will never happen.
So, Chris, out of these, let's say in these 4 years, sorry to cut you off, Adam. Let's say once this administration is done, the 4 years, and let's just guess, because the numbers are not going to be accurate.
Right.
20 million are coming illegally. And we didn't make up the word. It's in the law. It's illegal.
I don't have any problem with your language.
Yeah,
Knock yourself
I love
out.
you. Thank you. Out of that 20 million illegal that were, come on in, come on. How many do you think are going to actually vote for the Democratic Party?
I have no idea.
So
I have no idea, but I do know this.
You can't have an idea because there's no
is
ID.
it safe to say a third?
I have no
people.
idea. But what I'm saying is, if people come in and they vote illegally, you should be able to catch them.
But some of the state laws don't show ID. If you don't need ID in all the states that he said already, the cheating, that's what I'm saying. The window is so open, you can't tell, but it's obvious what's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Chris, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You know, like I can't accept. You're not an unintelligent person, okay?
That's a high compliment.
No, it is. You are not. So I need to just prod this further
Yes.
because I know you're not unintelligent, okay?
Thank you.
I know that you.
Backhanded, but I'll take it.
No, I'm serious.
Not unintelligent
I'm not
is different than intelligent. But
Listen,
go ahead.
No, I'm being serious because
Go ahead.
to take this position that you don't think we should have ID while acknowledging the influx of people at the border and pretending that there's some study that shows that there's not actually fraud while also acknowledging that you have no idea because you can't give them ID. You can't give them ID. How can you, if you're saying you can just go in and you can vote, right? And you're saying we know there was no fraud, it defies common sense, right? So what are you defending when you say something like, I do not believe that Americans should have to have ID? What are you actually defending and protecting?
ID to vote. I do not believe that you're a government remedy away from the problem. 2, I respect the data, and they keep looking at this, keep trying to find that people are voting illegally.
Who specifically? What study? Who did the study
The
to
Heritage
show?
Foundation, the Cato Institute, places on the right, places on the left, the government. I mean, look, you can say, oh, they're all bought off by Big Pharma or whatever. I'm just saying they study this all the time, trying to catch illegal voting. Catch it. And if you catch it, then make the case. Look, you lock me into a yes/no. I say no because I'm not a fan of it as a remedy. I think there are policy arguments against it.
I don't want it as a remedy. I want it as just a full stop rule that you should have to have an ID to vote. I'm not trying to fix it. That it can't. It's necessarily going to be broken if we do not have a system in which we know.
Where is the proof that there's all this illegal voting?
Hold on. If you.
The whole point is that with the no voter ID, how can we prove if there's illegal voting? If there's, to bring up PBD's example earlier, if you own a club and you're carding people to get in, you have to be 21 to get in. Okay, let's say the club stopped carding people. They stopped requiring ID to get into the club. And then a few months later, they say, hey, there's a lot of underage people going to your club. Well, where's the proof that they're coming? Yeah, because there's no one checking. So how can they prove that there's a lot of underage people if no one's checking in the first place? It's the same thing with this the voter ID. How can you prove that there's fraud if you can't even check? Like, how do you know there's fraud or not if you're not checking for some kind of voter ID? Or using some kind of method? Like, okay, fine, voter ID, you don't want it. What other method is there to make sure that the people voting in these elections are legal citizens? What is there? Chris Cuomo's not answering that. He doesn't have an answer. He's saying that Border Patrol or whomever is they're doing the data, they're trying to find voter fraud. Well, why don't they put voter ID so that way they could better track the voter fraud? I mean, I don't know. I think it makes sense. What do you guys think out there in comment section?
If you have to mail in your vote but don't show any ID or any proof, that's
look.
They can't ever catch that.
When you go and vote, right? You go there. They open the book in front of you, right? They say, "Where do you live?" You have this little card that they've sent you, right? They see your address. They say if they see that you're me, they say, "Who are you voting for, Chris?" Which is really great. And then they mark you off in the book. All right. So it's not that you just come in and you do it and you go. Do I think that's the best system? Of course not. Would it be better if you know who everybody is? Yeah, of course. From a safety and security standpoint, fine. Well, then why are you against it? Because three things really. One, I'm not a big fan of more government involvement in the lives of people. Two, I don't know the proof. I'm just, look
it's not
again.
more government.
You don't have to, it is the government. It absolutely is.
It's not more government because you already have an ID to do everything else.
But these people don't have IDs, and that's the point.
If you said you have to get go out and get a special different from your driver's license ID, that would be asking
Chris,
for more government.
Are you trolling right now?
I think he's trolling me.
Are you honestly?
He's trolling me.
If you are.
Chris Cuomo making such a bad argument because on one hand he's like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I agree. Yes, a better system, better this and stuff. But then he's coming out also saying, oh, voter ID. No, I'm against it. And his argument, it's a total fail of an argument. And where Patrick Bet-David just straight up asks him, Chris Cuomo, are you trolling us right now? Candace is like, are you trolling us? Everyone in the audience is laughing at him. What a complete, like, I am also, like, the whole panel here, I also am dumbfounded by Chris Cuomo's argument here, because on one hand, he seems to understand the problems, but on the other hand, he's still like, but I'm still against voter ID bad. Voter ID bad. And it's like, oh my gosh. Is he trolling us? Guys, do you agree with PBD? Is this a master troll on Chris Cuomo's part? Or do you just think Chris Cuomo is just an idiot? I'm going to be honest here. I really don't know. If you want to see PBD owning more people, owning more wacko lefties like Chris Cuomo here, if you want to see people looking stupid on the PBD podcast, I got a whole playlist for you. If you want to see Candace Owens owning people on the left, I got another playlist for you right here on the screen. Go check them out.